I trust you guys know a thing or two about circles. Yeah, that's the round thing. Yeah. Usually, I don't know. Sometimes you're a little colder than that, but you got to be careful. If it's 360 degrees, you will burn your hands. Oh, you mean around a circle? Yeah. Okay, here we go. Now, a circle is a set of points in a plane that are fixed distance from a given point. You got to kind of think like a bicycle wheel with the spokes. This point is called the center of the circle. Now, whenever we name a circle, we end up having like a dot with a circle drawn around it. So you'll see this. This means that we are looking at circle A. All the points within the circle are called interior. Kind of, well, of course they are. If it's on the inside, they should be on the interior, right? Now, the distance that goes from the center to the outside is called the radius. Bicycles, radius. Diameter goes all the way from one side to the other through the center. Now, there's something else called chord that goes from one side of a circle to another part of the circle without going through the center. But that kind of get to that later on. And it boils down to that two circles are congruent if they have congruent radii. So, if I want to name the diameter, what would be the diameter of the circle? AB, BA, BA. So, AB or BA, diameter has to go through it. So, I could name it diameter as AB or BA. Generally, we would go with AB because we put things in alphabetic order. So, what about a radius? What would the radius be like? Yes, ma'am. DC, okay. So I got segment BC. Now, mind you, I'm putting segment on here, aren't I? So what would be the other one then, Aaliyah? BC would work just fine. So we got two different radiuses, basically anything as long as it goes to the circle. So what is the center of the circle? What? Yes, ma'am? C. So the center turns out to be just C. Now, if I wanted to name this thing, I would end up drawing something that looks like this. That would be it. A little circle with a point on it and say it's called C. Not that big. So, circumference. This is the formula that everything comes from when it comes to dealing with a circle. Circumference is basically the ratio of the distance around a circle to its radius. Huh? Pie? Pumpkin? Apple? Pie. So, you have pie? No, I don't have any. But anyways, okay. But pi is represented by the symbol, and then they give us that little symbol that's called pi. Now, it's identified as an irrational number that is defined as the ratio of the circumference of a circle to its diameter. There are several ways to approximate the value of pi. Mind you, we can't find it exactly because pi is a non-terminating, non-repeating decimal. They've calculated pi out to a whole boatload of digits. So, and I mean boatload, I'm talking over 1 million. No, not necessarily. Now, they give us a couple of options. They say you use 3.14 or 22 divided by 7. So just for the sake of argument, I'll show you this. If I go and take my calculator and take 22 and divide it by 7, we get 3.1428. If I use the calculator key for pi, over here, and most calculators have it, I get 3.14159. And that's, pi calculated out to that whatever number of decimal points that is. Now, for most purposes, you will use 3.14. They kind of give you a guide for knowing when to use what. If no approximation is specified, use the pi key on your calculator for a more precise answer. So if they tell you to use 3.14 or use 22/7, then you must use those. Otherwise, you can get by with the pi calculator, pi key on the calculator. Now, also be aware that if you use 3.14 and somebody else uses uses the pi key, somebody else uses 22/7, you are going to get answers that are a little bit different. They'll be close, but they will be. So, I want to find the circumference of this. So they want us to find the circumference of the circle to the nearest hundredth of an inch, use 3.14 for pi. Well, circumference was equal to 2 pi r. Isn't that what they gave us? So that means that this is going to be equal to 2. What are we supposed to use for pi? 3.14 multiplied by the radius, which is 14. So, get the calculator back again. Move this out. And I got 2 times 3.14 multiplied by 14. And we're supposed to round that, and since it's already in 2 decimal places, we're good to go. So we have this here as, what was it again? 87.92, right? So I end up with 87. Now, what happens if I would have done this using the pi key? Well, that would have been 2 times pi times 14, and I end up with 87.96. Is it close? It's not too bad. But these are smaller numbers, so there's going to be, kind of a bigger discrepancy, or not that much of a discrepancy. You get bigger numbers and things can get a little bent out of shape pretty quick. So, area of a circle. Area is equal to pi r squared. Now, of course, you guys have this one memorized and have done this for many years, right? Area of a circle. Again, make sure that you know what the radius is. So, I want to find the area of these things. Well, that's easy enough. Area is equal to pi r squared, correct? So for the first one, area is going to be equal to pi. Oh, hold a sec, they want us to use 3.14, right? So I better put down that area is equal to 3. I said 3. I don't know. 3.14 multiplied by 2 squared. So, 3.14 multiplied by 2 squared. That was easy enough, right? So the area here is equal to 12.56 square meters, so it would be meters squared. Remember, we've got area here, we need to make sure that we label it appropriately. What about B? No big deal. Use the same formula. Area is equal to pi which we're supposed to use as 3.14 multiplied by the radius. What's the radius? Half of that. So if that's the diameter, that means the radius would be equal to what? 13. So get 13 squared. So area is going to be equal to, go to the calculator, and we end up with 3.14 times 13 squared. And we end up with 530.66. We're supposed to be at the nearest hundredth, and inches squared. Again, if you've got the formulas, you plug the numbers in, you go through and use it, it's not that difficult. So, I'm going to give you a moment here, and I want you to draw a circle P with a radius and a diameter and the center label. All right, so what you should have is something that looks like this. Now, is your circle going to be perfect? Absolutely not. We're not looking at that. I mean, if we want to go, if we need to draw ourselves out a perfect circle, obviously we get ourselves a compass and go through and do that. So now, I want the radius. Oh, this is supposed to be circle P, right? So I better put P down here so that I know that that's going to be it. So I'm supposed to have a radius next. So could I draw this in here like this and say that's my radius? Okay. Could I draw this through and call it my diameter? If I want. Okay. Is that everything? No, that's everything. I drew circle P, labeled. I got a radius and a diameter. So, I'll give you a few moments and I want you to do this one. Practice problem B. Now, as I'm listening to you guys working on this, I hear some things that you're not reading carefully enough. Find the circumference of a circle with a radius of 0.5 meters. So, circumference, pi, 2, and r, right? By the way, is this a legal formula? Pi times diameter. Depending upon what they give you, it dictates as to which one you use. So, my circumference is going to be equal to 2. What am I supposed to use for pi? Now, does that mean that I am going to use the pi key on the calculator? Absolutely not. So, those of you that tried that are going to have a different answer. Because it wants you rounded to the nearest hundredth of a meter, and the thing is, you may end up getting the same exact answer. 2 times 3.14 times 0.5. You should always follow instructions and see what you get. So, well, think about it. The order of multiplication really doesn't matter, does it? What is half of 2? 1. So 1 times 3.14, obviously we should end up getting this equal to 3.14. So, give you a few moments and play with this one. Okay, so you're supposed to find the area of a circle with a radius of 31 centimeters. Use 3.14 for pi and again round to the nearest hundred. So that means that we've got area is equal to pi, which is 3.14 multiplied by the radius of 31 squared, correct? So 3.14 multiplied by 31 squared, and I end up with, well, it's not necessarily a big number, it's 3017.54. Now, were we in centimeters? Centimeters squared. Should I always make sure I label? Did we label back here? No, so I better put in meters squared. Because from this point on, putting the wrong label on is not going to be a good thing, is it? Get problems wrong. Bad idea. So, okay, I'm going to give you a moment, and I want you to do this one. So, here we are. Area of the circle with a diameter of 1 yard. So, is this really difficult? Well, if it's a diameter, what's the radius equal to? 0.5, right? Because if it's a diameter of 1 yard, radius has to be equal to half a yard, right? So that means the area is going to be equal to 3.14 multiplied by 0.5 squared, correct? Reading is always a good thing. So 3.14 times 0.5 squared, and we end up with area equal to 0.7 8. See, now you said 9. Set my brain. 0.785. But we're supposed to round it to the nearest hundredth of a yard, so that means that it's going to be equal to 0.79. Okay? Of course, we have to put in yards and what? So, there you go. One more to do, so I'll give you a little time to work on this one. All right, so you've had a little time to sit there and puzzle with this one. It said the lid to a sewer opening is how many inches in diameter? So, what we've got here is a circle that has the diameter of 35 inches, correct? Now again, you don't have to be super accurate on here, you just have to make sure that you get things put in there. So, what's the radius going to be? That should be one of the automatic things that you deal with here. What? What's the radius? So 17.5. We got that. Now, if you roll it in a straight line along the ground for 3 rotations, so that means you're going to move this that way on the ground, rolling, correct? So it means you're going to go start here, and then it would go once around, right? And would have to do that how many times for those of you paying attention? 3. So what do we call that when we go around the outside of a circle? Circumference. Now, we were given the diameter, so I could just use that rather than a decimal number. So I could go circumference is equal to 22 over 7, because it tells me to use 22 over 7, multiplied by 35. Now, if you actually follow instructions and don't try and divide things out and use a calculator and all this other stuff, you have a very easy calculation now. Because the 35 can go over 1, 7 cancel with 35, and I end up with 5, correct? And now I get 22 multiplied by 5, so the circumference here, or I should say circumference, I should say distance, is going to be exactly that, 110 inches. Okay? So depending upon the situation, kind of dictates as which variable or value you use for pi. So I'm going to let you guys get to work on the assignment. Do it at the end of class. Fairly